All right, so I'm gonna call this one kind of like an eras video. Ever since there's the retirement of Sting, and then they showed his sons came out as different versions of Sting. Maybe kind of wonder like, well, what if we looked at a similar wrestler, the same wrestler, but from different eras of his career, and then put him through the exact same sort of scenario that I tend to go through. Now, with this as always, this is my opinion on things. So in AJ Styles, this should be about 2006. And here's AJ Styles WWE 24. Yes, that is a picture from the video game. I wasn't able to find a really good image of him from Elimination Chamber or from the most recent SmackDown when he attacked LA Knight from behind. So as always, we're going through this. My personal opinion, if you disagree, it's comment section. For most of you, this is about the time when you click off because it's a person talking through a webcam using an Excel sheet to do a fictional combat between two different eras of the same wrestler. So we'll get right into this. Strength. No, large X. I don't think most people probably disagree with this one. If you look at AJ now, he is packed on some serious muscle. He is definitely a much bigger, more physically imposing competitor now. Now, having said that, as you do become larger, and AJ, of course, at this time, as you can tell, he is 18 years older, roughly. And he has mentioned, too, that his speed has taken a definite knock. And you see him in the ring, he's still quick, but nowhere near as sudden as he was during his time in TNA. And also with next two as well. So AJ in his TNA run, he was doing incredible matches, whether it was triple threats, whether it was Ultimate X. There's definitely much more physical, demanding in-ring style than what we see AJ doing right now. He also wrestled longer matches and did them more often. This was, he was very much the workhorse of TNA at that time. And, where he is now with the WWE, he's definitely working a different style, much more, he's more in the showcase era of his career more than anything else. Striking. I'm gonna give this one to AJ. Duh. Give this one the WWE 24 version. Primarily because if you look at what he did in TNA, he was solid, but it wasn't until AJ made that transition to New Japan where he had to change his style because how much his body had been just beaten down and torn up. And he's maintained that level of style and that fantastic striking combination, as well as doing the phenomenal forearm, Pele kick every now and then. But you very much can tell that he's really pushed that striking game that he actually kept from his New Japan time. Same with grappling. You know, uh, well, I might as well just go through all this, make it a lot easier. So as I mentioned, AJ's body had begun to wear down. So you're seeing him using more suplexes, more slams. He's using the calf crusher a lot more. He's using more mat-based style. Why? Because he can't go to the sky anymore. I think it was is it on a Twitch stream or something where someone asked, "Will I ever do the spinal tap again?" And he was like, "No, I can't. If I tried to do that, I probably couldn't walk ever again." So AJ very, very much in his TNA time, as you see there, he's got the X Division title on. It was all over the place. They were springboarding almost everything. He still has a fantastic 450 now, but he's not throwing it anywhere near as many times as he's leaving the ground as he used to in his TNA time. And again, that also has the advantage too when you're younger, you're lighter, you're quicker, you have more of a daredevil attitude. Where now, he's got kids. That's why his birthday's tattooed on his body. He's not going to be able to work that same style, that same frenetic pace. That's one of those things people are like, oh man, could you imagine if AJ Styles would have shown up in the E earlier in his career? It's like, well, he would have been a guy who did lots of high flying moves, but that wasn't the E style, so he might have stood out. But would he be where he is now, given the amount of seasoning that he has? It's over at the crowd. Controversial pick here. Hear me out on this one. If you go back to AJ Styles' time in TNA, he was Mr. TNA. He was by far one of the most over wrestlers in TNA. They almost kind of like you could book the show around him. Now, of course, as they brought in other wrestlers who were of higher name value, that's when people call it's well, AJ's going to be in a turkey suit because it's Thanksgiving time. He was still very much a focus of the show, whether he was the butt of the joke or not. You can tell they always tried to make sure that he was an Impact original. So very much a lot of the show was focused around him. And when people talked about, did you see TNA? When it was the weekly pay-per-view, they're like, that guy AJ Styles is amazing. Dare I say, he's phenomenal. We're looking at where AJ is now in the WWE. He's still incredibly over, but he's not in like the top 5 guys when they go into most markets. Where during the TNA run, AJ Styles very easily would have been in that top 5 part. These next two, I'm just going to go through them because it's a lot easier. So ring psychology. If you go back and watch very early TNA, it is move, 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 move. Everyone is down. Crowd chants, this is awesome. Everyone's just blown up for a few minutes. That's why you saw lots of multi-man matches where it was, here's the amazing, cool, wicked, awesome thing we're going to do. There was more of the, check out the motion of this move, where now, since his body is beaten up, this is just, you hear this a lot from older wrestlers, especially like, Taker mentions this a lot. The older wrestlers are always like, no, slow down. You can do less moves and get the crowd more invested in the moves that you're doing. Where younger guys are like, no, I can do every single move in the book. Okay, well, when you get older and your body is beaten up and you're like, hey, I can work some of these spots. I can build up to it. I can bring the crowd with me. Hit this big impactful move. Let the crowd pop. Let the crowd dive back down a little bit. Build them back up to the next spot. And, just constantly work them through the match. Where Impact was just, here's the amazing things we're going to do. Consistently. And, that's an issue with ring psychology. And it seems to be, older wrestlers have it figured out that you can do less in the ring and have it mean more. And then finally, mic work. AJ Styles, since he has turned heel, for some reason, like AJ's E-runs when he's a babyface are fine, but his heel work is fantastic. Whether it's his time against John Cena, whether it's his feud now with LA Knight. I mean, it takes a lot to hate somebody so much that you will fly to Saudi Arabia just to attack them while they're inside a structure. To make sure that they don't get to have this massive moment. They don't get to have this massive WrestleMania moment. And then fly back. I mean, that's like a Family Guy level of intensity and hatred for somebody. And his mic work has just been really good at this point. I mean, but during his TNA run, he didn't need it. It was all, here's what you can do in the ring. If you had a lot of psychology, it worked well. That's why if you watched AJ have a match with someone like Kurt Angle, as his body began to kind of betray him a little bit, he very much slowed down, and he really found ways to bring insane explosive amounts of intensity, but then also bring the crowd with him as well. And AJ's mic work now it's fantastic. It is very much phenomenal. So if you've made it through this far with me, I thank you very much for sticking along here. If you liked it, hey, thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, thumbs down button. If there's other different eras you want to see me do, as I was first thinking this through, and I was like, he's a great high flyer. It's like, well, how would TNA AJ Styles match with someone like Ricochet? This allows me to go through different eras. Like, what if we did Triple H Reign of Terror versus Super Cena? Now you can look at very specific time frames instead of just different wrestlers, different eras. We look at a different era of the same wrestler. So, thank you for listening to me this far. And I try to do one of these at least once a month. If they become easier for me to do, I'll probably try to do 2 of them.